Hey everyone, if you're watching this video, it's probably because you have a question or two concerning the hairy topic of embedded leases. As we know, in layman's terms, an embedded lease is going to be a scenario where we have a service contract or arrangement that has an asset that's either explicitly or implicitly stated, and pretty much it falls under the scope of whatever lease accounting standard you're complying with. In this example, let's go with ASC 42. However, that could be a very difficult evaluation to perform. Essentially, if you're not familiar with the nuances of the guidance, or more so what dictates or what a embedded lease asset is defined as. So that's where we come into play. On our homepage at leasegrade.com, there's a resources section where you can find our free tools. And within the free tools section, there's going to be an embedded lease test. And that's going to be an analysis where you get to go through a series of questions. Now, keep in mind, we may all have a different set of questions depending on how we answer them. It's a decision tree. But you go through those series of questions, and at the end of the analysis, we'll provide you with a PDF result via email that will help break down and give you a definitive conclusion as to whether or not the contract or the agreement that you're evaluating did in fact have an embedded lease. So let's go ahead and start that. Today, we're going to do a very high-level cursory overview of this test and answer a few of those questions. So I'm going to call this sample lease 1. And we're going to go through an identification test. And we're going to go through a control test. And then finally, we're going to end with the results. The control test is more so just going to be an evaluation of, do we have the ability to dictate the use of the asset, or do we have the ability to obtain the economic benefits of it? So if those are unfamiliar terms to you, we'll help you make sense of them. So let's go ahead and jump into that. The very first question is the asset specified explicitly in the contract? Now, for those of us who may not be familiar with the guidance or this terminology, we may be wondering, what does that mean? What does it mean to be specified explicitly? In layman's terms, it's more so is the contract really built around this asset in question? But we can help define that once again. Click on the highlighted term and it'll give you a definition of it. It'll also give you an example, and then it'll give you an analysis of the example so that you can make sense of that and make the appropriate decision as per the terms of your contract that you're reviewing. I'm going to go ahead and say this asset is specified explicitly. My next question, therefore, is going to be, is the asset physically distinct? I'm going to say yes, but then again, we want to understand what does that mean. You can go ahead and click on the highlighted hyperlink there. Keep in mind, you can add comments, and the purpose of this is so that you can document your rationale for coming to some of these conclusions. And ultimately, when you get your results, those results could be used as audit documentation. So the more you can document, the better this is going to be at the end of the day. I'm going to go ahead and say this asset is physically distinct. Does the supplier have substitution rights? Could they just free-nilly just come in and say, hey, we're going to take this one out of commission and give you this asset? Here you go. No, I'm going to say no. But then again, what does that mean? We can click on it and get an understanding of that. Now, I want to reiterate here, just because they do have substitution rights doesn't mean that we come to the end of the road. There's some series of other questions evaluating those substitution rights that can help determine once again, whether this in fact does contain a lease or whether it's just a service contract. I'm going to go and say no here. Do you have the right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits from the use of the identified asset? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And do you have the right to direct the use of the asset? Yes. So I have a feeling that we're coming to the end of the test, and we have. And the only thing we have to do here is just populate our name and our email address, and we will get the results in a matter of seconds. We can submit, go ahead and submit that. I already have it opened up here. And essentially what this is going to be, it's going to document all of the questions and how you answer them in a decision tree format. So I could see here that I've stated that this asset was explicitly stated. It was physically distinct, and there were no substitution rights. So we're probably going towards a lease. But then again, we got to the control test. And in the control test, I said that essentially we do have substantially all of the economic benefits from using this asset, and we do have the right to dictate its use or direct its use. So in essence, this contract does contain a lease. And then you can take this test as many times as you like to analyze or review all of those contracts that you may be iffy about. But at the end of the day, once again, we will help you make the correct determination just by evaluating what each question is asking for, give you an example, and helping you document those rationales or those reasons for doing so. All right. Happy testing.